Hello everybody, it's Craftendo. Today I'm going to teach you how to do all sorts of YBY and YBY Ups, which are the most advanced techniques used in Rayman Legends. It's been 3 years since I've uploaded my tutorial, so it was about time to update it. I will show some signs to help you to visualize how it works. Pause the video if you want to know the details of the meaning. Anyway, without any further ado, let's start. First, we'll see how to do the regular YBYs. They are the key to understanding the rest of the video, and it's the easiest trick to start with. To do a regular YBY, after you hold the right button and move in a direction, just spin and then press the attack and jump button at the same time. Your character will try to do a kick and jump at the same moment, which results in doing this weird animation. There are also other variants where you move your stick or press the D-pad. You can do an up kick YBY, but you can also do a back YBY. This one is very useful. I will explain it later in the video. Now that I told you how it works, I can explain to you the story of why we call this trick a YBY. You need to know Rayman Legends, which was supposed to be released exclusively on Wii U in late 2012, got delayed to summer 2013 and got released on other consoles. To make Wii U players wait, Ubisoft released a challenge hub in April 2013, where you can play some random generated level that changes every day with some goals. People noticed after some time they could do the trick I've explained to you, and the Wii U inputs are Y, B and Y, so they came out with the name of YBY. For YBY Ups, it's a similar way, even though most of today's players wouldn't have named this trick that way. Anyway, YBYs are very useful to keep some momentum and do little jumps. They are almost used everywhere, so try to be consistent at doing them. Now, let's see how to do YBY Ups. First things first, you need to have a setup for your YBY Up, so please follow the instructions carefully if you ever want to try a YBY Up. There are plenty of types of setups for YBY Ups, but all of them have one common thing, the attack input. And don't forget to hold the run button. I will show some setups that I will list from the easiest to the hardest. Ground pound on ground. You can just stand and press down to crouch and then press the attack button. Roll attack. Just press down and then the attack button to do roll attack. Do it after being in the air or after doing a spin dash. Then there's the charge attack, the easiest being the ultra charge attack. The back attack, make sure to wait and attack before turning, but don't wait too much of course. There's also the regular spin dash attack, but you need to hit an enemy or another entity that you can destroy in the level to make the setup work, otherwise you will just do a regular YBY. For harder YBY Up setups, we have the middle up kick that we only name up kick, which is a kick down close to the ground. You can do another kick in the air before, so you can keep falling after you do your up kick. There are also very advanced setups like girth, walking attack, you can't hold the run button before the setup but you have to do it after, and neutral attack. The difficulty of these setups is mainly from the time you have after doing these tricks to perform your YBY Up. What do you do once you do your YBY Up setup? Well, let's take an example with the ground pound on ground attack, so it's easy for you. After you do your attack, your character will start to do a ground pound on ground animation and it will take some time. During that animation, you need to do 3 things at the same time. Press the attack and jump button like a YBY, and you also need to press the direction you want, between -40 and +40 degrees on the left or on the right. Try practicing the YBY Up with a ground pound on ground setup to get use of it. Now I need to talk about very important details with YBY Ups. First of all, you can get several aids and momentum with YBY Up depending on 2 factors. The first one is the angle of your YBY Up. The higher it is, the higher you will go. The huge drawback about angle is that the higher the angle is, the momentum you will lose horizontally. So sometimes you need to be careful with the angle you want. If you just want to reach a high point, use a high angle. If you want to keep most of your momentum, try to get your angle as flat as possible. The D-pad can be very useful in these situations. The second factor, which is rarer, but which can happen, is wind. In wind, your jump is much higher than usual, making YBY and YBY Ups very powerful here. So you don't need a high angle to go very high with the YBY Up. Secondly, the animation you have when you do YBY Up is crucial. It determines what you can possibly do with it. The animation you get depends on the direction you were looking before your YBY Up. If you go in the same direction you were looking before, you will do a spin dash animation. If you go to the opposite direction you were looking, you can do a back air animation or a back kick animation. What's important here is the notion of back kick, because now I can tell you what you can add to these YBY Ups. If you have a back air kick after YBY Up, you can add a jump input to do a double jump. We call this trick a YBY Up double jump or simply YBY Up jump. This trick is very useful to get very high points in a level or a challenge. You can delay the jump to go even higher, but the timing is quite difficult though. Also, this works with back YBY as well, so you can do a back YBY jump. Thanks to this, you can keep a lot of momentum while going very high or very farther, so that's why I told you this YBY was very important. You can also add a jump after doing a back kick animation after YBY Up if the character you use is either a Rayman or a princess, but it won't work with a Globox or a II.a because their attack animation will last for too long. If you have a spin dash animation, there's nothing much you can do, but there's an exception. If you have an enemy or an entity you can kill or destroy, you can also add a jump to your YBY Up after interacting with the enemy or entity. If you want to do a YBY but you have such a setup like a bone wall or an enemy that forces you to do a YBY Up, you can do two different things to prevent doing this YBY Up. First, if you get an angle which is too high, you will end up doing the YBY Up but with the up kick animation. So it's like you do a up kick YBY, but sometimes you want to do a back YBY jump, so you also want to add the jump. Well, if you do the spin and then release the run button and try to attack, jump and look back, your character will do a regular back YBY and not a back YBY Up, which would have sent you back in the level. After that back YBY, you can add a jump to get your back YBY jump. Honestly, this isn't something used that often and it's quite hard when you start to learn it, but it's always good to know. There are two setups which require to do an attack and immediately cancelling it to do another one. The first one is a GP into back kick YBY Up, or mostly named the Quickdash YBY Up. This YBY is very useful in towers and allows you to GP to the platform and quickly YBY Up right after it. How this works is that you simply need to GP and hold the run button before you hit the ground. You have to press the opposite direction you're looking and press the attack button. In this way, right after you GP, you're supposed to make a spin dash, but it will be cancelled into a back kick. What you can do after it is a back kick YBY Up. Back kick animation YBY Up is faster, so you have to be careful with how you prepare your YBY Up. The direction you look before the GP is also very important, since you have to back kick into the opposite direction to be able to get your back kick animation. If you did everything alright, you should be able to get this. Also, this setup can be combined with the anti-YBY Up setup and you can get this trick, which is useful for some sections like this in towers. The second setup is named the RCBA YBY Up, or simply the RCBA. RCBA means roll cancelled by back attack, so it's kinda self-explanatory, but it's hard to imagine the point of this YBY Up. Well, this RCBA is incredibly useful because you can keep a lot of momentum while doing the YBY Up, way more than a roll attack YBY Up, because the animation is much faster, so it ends much earlier. Also, since it uses a back kick animation, you can add a jump which allows you to go higher. So in the end, you can go very high and keep a lot of momentum, which is something very useful. The setup is quite hard to understand and learn. First of all, like a roll attack YBY Up, you need to do a roll attack, but only after being in midair or if you just killed an enemy or entity. Do it without holding the run button, it's very important. Then, once you do it, immediately go to the opposite direction you're looking by the bottom if you're using a stick. If you did it successfully, your roll attack will be replaced by a back kick animation. After you have this animation, do a regular back kick YBY up. If you want to add a jump, keep in mind the timing is quite hard and you will need early input sometimes, and this only works with Rayman or Princess. Another mechanic which is sometimes used in lands and tower speed is the bumper jump. Basically, it allows you to jump after you touch a bumper, like if you were on the ground. You still keep the momentum of the bumper, which can be useful. In order to do a bumper jump, you need to do YBY up, close to the bumper enough, so you press the jump button a bit after your YBY up. Once you touch the bumper, do your jump. You have some range to do your jump, and the later you do your jump, the higher you will go. So it might be hard to get it right in some challenges, but accept that it's not that bad with practice. You don't even need the back air kick animation to do this bumper jump. As you can see, a spin dash animation YBY up works just fine. Some people might be surprised I'm talking about water techniques here, but water Mega Boost has really important similarities with YBY Ups. If you have an enemy or entity you can destroy, you can spin and press the attack and jump button like YBY Ups, and your attack will be cancelled and you will get a little boost. I'm sure some of you even wondered what the jump input does in the water. Well, you simply move a bit, and if you spam the jump button, you will start to swim horizontally, like if you were holding the right button and the stick into a direction. The huge difference here is that you can make many water mega boosts in a row, since the animation doesn't last for long. So, one mega boost doesn't make a huge difference, but doing many of them in an invasion can easily save some seconds. And it also becomes easier to play the invasion because your movements are more fluid. This allows to improve world records by seconds, like in 4-1, the mysterious inflatable island, where the world record went from 22.08 to 25.46. So what I recommend you for water mega boost is that when you're near Toad, Rela Torpedo, you can spam the jump and the attack button. If you have a single bond wall though, you can't do water mega boost because you need an entity to cancel your animation. You can still do water mega boost with a double bond wall like at the end of 1-2. In Rayman Legends, when you do a kick once in the air, you will stop moving vertically, but the second time you hit, if you haven't glided a long time before, you won't stop moving. Well, you need to think that the YBY works in a similar way, but it's not really the same kind of kick. If you do YBY, you will fall immediately. If you wait enough, you will restart to kick while falling. Make sure not to do it too late to reset the kick, but not too early as well because the character will do a combo kick animation and stop falling. This YBY fully technique is easier to test with Glowbox if you want to give it a try. There's also the same property in wine for falling YBYs, but also for regular falling kicks. If you do YBY up and you late right after, you can do a BY, meaning you can press the jump and attack button at the same time when you land to do like the YBY animation without the initial spin. This isn't often used, but it brings some style points. I've presented to you some YBY Up setups earlier. Most of them are pure timing learning, so there's no secret except practice to master them. But I can give some advice for some setups. For the up kick YBY up, it's very important to do your YBY up early so you have the time to prepare the jump and attack input as soon as you land on the ground. You can easily press some inputs by accident with this YBY up, but the only solution for that is practice. So go practice it because it's an essential YBY up used in a lot of places. Trust me, for the girls YBY up, you need to do a YBY before doing a YBY up from that. After you do your YBY, keep the direction you were looking before until the very last moment when you switch to the angle you want and you press the jump and attack button at the same time. For those who are wondering, the girl's name mainly comes from the way you do the YBY up, so go ask Brumbles for that. Also, just a simple tip for neutral air YBY up. Like I explained for falling kicks, you can prepare your kick before in the air and then doing another one when you're falling. For neutral air YBY up, do one neutral kick in the air and you must do another one just before you touch the ground. The kick you do before touching the ground has to be done without any directional input, and what you do is that you put directional input only when you finish your YBY up. At the same time you press the jump and the tag button. I will link a tutorial from Hydra about some of these advanced techniques in the description if you want more info on how to do it. Alright, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was well explained and it will help you. Feel free to ask me in the comments or in Discord if you have any questions with some tricks. I will answer all of you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This video took me a lot of efforts, so I would really appreciate that. Also, huge thanks for Targing for helping me doing the script for today's video. He usually helps me listing the invasions for my monthly recap videos and checks my scripts. So today I really wanted to take the time to thank him for that. Anyway, see you guys, take care.